I can't take you into all the details of the fun. I'm very sorry about that. That won't be right for me to do on a public broadcast. But in a private conversation, I'll be happy to do that.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bits and Pieces. My name is Noah Martins. This is my partner Rohan, and with us today we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Harish Bhat, who is the custodian, the brand custodian of the Tata Sons Group, and he's also an author. You've written almost a dozen books, I believe.
A few books, yes, and I'll be happy to speak about them. What do you want to know about my books?
No, but first I wanted to know, what is a brand custodian? What
does a custodian do? A custodian is a person who protects, and therefore, when you have a brand which is as old and as revered as the Tata brand. The Tata brand is 152 years of age today, and it's growing from strength to strength. I mean, how many brands do you know which are 152 years of age?
Not that many.
How many people do you know who are 152 years of age? So 152 years this brand has stood for many things. It stood for the community. It stood for giving back to the nation. It stood for pioneering new businesses, whether it is steel or luxury hotels or IT services or branded jewelry or branded salt or a host of new businesses which are important for this country and contribute to the nation. So you have to ensure that those pillars of the brand remain intact. You have to ensure that all the companies which use this brand use it in a particular manner, and you have to ensure that this brand is developed very carefully and left even stronger for the next generation. Because you may think that the Tata brand is Tata, but truly speaking, the Tata brand is owned by the people of India. They have seen it throughout their lives. Haven't you seen it since the time you were a child, with everything that you have used? And we need to ensure that we pass it on to your generation and to the generation after you, stronger than it's been. And that's my role as brand custodian of the Tata Group.
So you have to know what Tata stands for.
Of course, I think the idea of a brand is very, very important. Okay, your podcast stands for something. What you're doing just now, Bits and Pieces. It's a nice, engaging podcast for young people. Similarly, Tata is a brand where the community is at the center, and everything that we do, we build very profitable businesses, we build pioneering businesses, but we use them to give back to the community. That's what the Tata brand is all about.
Yeah, I'll come back to that later. Like you said, the growth of Tata, in a sense, is the growth of the country. I'll come back to that question later, but first I would like to ask you how, he's a BITS Pilani alumnus, so how has your journey from BITS Pilani helped you throughout your career and life? And if you could expand on,
for example, even the clubs and departments, if you could talk about how they'd help.
So BITS Pilani, I think, is an educational institution. It's one of the finest educational institutions of our country, but more importantly, I think BITS Pilani is a crucible of life. It does so many things to you when you're on campus. And let me just give you a couple of stories. On my BITS, I'm going back to my BITS Pilani days of 1980 to 84, and I used to be the joint Secchi and then the Secchi of ILAS, which is our English Language Activity Society. And all the quizzes and debates and jams that I used to organize at that time taught me more about teamwork than I would think anything else has taught me over the past several years. And then in my final year at BITS Pilani, I was the president of the Students' Union. And that, I think, taught me more about life. More about people, more about the issues that people have, including myself, and how we can find win-win solutions to those issues. Came up, I think, well and vibrant. I realized that, sometimes someone has a problem, you just have to listen to the problem. And then do your best to see whether you can craft a solution. But often people just need to listen. And often you just need to speak to people, for people to listen to. That came home to me during my days as president of the Students' Union. But equally much, I think, I enjoyed the Pilani campus for all the fun we had. I can't take you into all the details of the fun. I'm very sorry about that. That won't be right for me to do on a public broadcast. But in a private conversation, I'll be happy to do that. So we had some wonderful days in the BITS Pilani campus.
Thing to say.
Yes, it is. It is. So there are some things which I can say publicly and some things
Right.
which I will
Yeah.
share in private.
Yeah.
But we had lots of fun on campus. I still remember the music nights. I still remember Oasis. I still remember all the Ceylons on campus. I still remember Shiv Ganga. I still remember Holi and all the fun we used to have around the Holi festival. I think BITS Pilani is like that. All the campuses of BITS Pilani today help make you a holistic person, and not just you can be studious if you want to, you can be fun loving if it wants to. I think the BITS Pilani campus encourages you to be both, and encourages you to be a complete person. It was the first time I was stepping out of my house when I went to BITS Pilani. I was a 17-year-old greenhorn going out of my parents' house for the first time. I loved the independence that I found on campus, but it was also tough managing that independence. There were so many dilemmas, so many issues that I had to deal with. My parents were several thousand miles away in Madurai, all the way away from Pilani, and those were the pre-cell phone days. I had to go to the post office and wait for a telephone call.
We had
back home.
one more guest yesterday was talking about how
Yes.
they had to wait in line for
the telephone call. But I think even today, like in those years, Pilani makes you very independent. It teaches you how to lead life with all its happiness, its sorrows, its anxieties, its exuberations, all the joys we have, but also all the trials and all the stumbles that we do, of which I'm sure I have done many on campus, and I'm sure no student goes through without those stumbles. So I think that's why Pilani to me is the crucible of life. It helps you come out as a well-rounded person, which is why many companies in India today look forward to recruiting graduates from BITS Pilani. That's why I think we have a very special place in the heart of this nation as an educational institution.
And let's talk about the writing. How do you get into that?
I've always been passionate about writing. Even on campus, I used to write for two magazines we had at Pilani at that time. One was called the Camel Post, which the name may sound a very slow thing to you, being a camel post, but it was a very fiery magazine. It used to have articles which were critical of various things. I still remember arguing with my editorial team at that time and saying I will only write about this or not about that. And then we used to have a magazine in the Pilani campus called Cactus Flower, which was once a year, which actually started in 1983 when I was on the campus, and I was one of the members of the editorial team. I was not the editor, but I wrote for that as well. I remember doing a wonderful interview with Dr. Karan Singh, who had come to visit the campus at that time, and a few other articles. Writing is very creative. Writing is very fulfilling, and it has been a passion with me. And over the years, it's grown. Over the first 5 or 10 years of my career, I was completely immersed in my career in marketing and building brands for the Tata Group, like Tata Tea or Tanishq or Fast Track or Titan. So all those brands. But later, as I went into my 30s and 40s, I rediscovered my love for writing. I love writing because it's creative. I love writing because the very art of framing a beautiful sentence with the right words, seeing the words drop into place and seeing them perfectly fit and juxtapose with each other is so magical. And I love writing because it helps you convey your ideas to so many people across. So with all the experience that I've built in branding and marketing and working in a corporate now, I think writing is the best form for me to actually give life to those experiences and bring them to many more people. Plus, writing is immensely relaxing for me. It's like music for some people, dance for some people, trekking for some people. I wonder what it is for the three of you, but writing is like that for me. When I write, I find a sense of calm come over me. I do some pieces on marketing and branding for the Hindu Business Line newspaper. I do a monthly column for them. I do some pieces pulling our own legs on all the fun that happens in offices, some irreverent takes on office life. I do that for the Mint. And very recently I've written a book called An Extreme Love of Coffee, which is a book of fiction. It's all about yesterday I did a session here at the BITS Pilani BGM on this book. It's a novel. It's a novel built around coffee, why coffee is a magical beverage. It's magic and adventure. It's a lot of travel. It's got hints of romance running through the book. So it's a wonderful story that comes together. And that's why, the main reason I do writing is I'm very passionate about it. It's very fulfilling for me, and I'd like to do something I'm very happy doing.
We'll
Great.
provide a link in the description for your book.
You're most
And-
welcome. An Extreme Love of Coffee is available on Amazon, on Flipkart, in most bookstores.
Yeah.
I am sure many young college students love coffee
Yeah.
Yeah.
because coffee is for keeping awake during exams, but
Yeah.
coffee is also for dating your boyfriend or girlfriend, and coffee
Yeah.
is also for perking you up whenever you're feeling a little low during the day.
Yeah.
So for anyone who loves coffee, this book is a wonderful accompaniment. And even if you don't love coffee, it will help you discover a love of coffee. So either way, I would, as a writer, I'd be delighted if all of you who are listening to this podcast decide to pick up an Extreme Love of
Yeah.
Coffee and read it. And my email address is there in the book. Please do write to me with your comments on what you think about the story. There's also a ghost in the book who
Okay.
drinks coffee.
Oh,
And there's a
Nice.
nice puzzle which is built around coffee. So I'm sure many of you will find it a very interesting book to read.
Yeah. So going back to the point that you brought up about Tata being a sort of a driver of the progress of this country.
Yeah.
So like you were telling me about the marathon that you all will be attending, the amount of philanthropy and everything that the Tata Group does, and the amount of contribution that you all have to the progress of the country. Does that kind of put a sort of a pressure on you of some kinds, and how do you kind of deal with it?
I think we do our best every single day. I'm not saying we do it right all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we could do better.
Yeah.
I think we should have the humility to say that sometimes we don't do it as well as we do, but we try our best for the nation, for the community. The Tata Mumbai Marathon, for instance, which is happening just tomorrow as we speak, we are going to we are title sponsors of the Tata Mumbai Marathon, Tata Sons and Tata Consultancy Services, and it's wonderful to see 55,000 runners on the streets of Mumbai. One is fitness and health. It
Yeah.
contributes back to fitness and health because that's what running does. But the other is, did you know that the Tata Mumbai Marathon last year raised more than 40 crores of rupees for charity?
Wow.
And this year it's hopefully the number will be much higher than that. So it's also a way of giving back to the community. I would say it's much better to run on the roads than do various other things.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
so my answer to your question is, I think every brand has a responsibility. And as the Tata brand, we believe it is our responsibility and role, on the one hand, to create pioneering businesses which are immensely successful in their own right, but on the other hand, to use some of those proceeds to give back to the community, which is why when we were created by Jamshedji Tata in the year 1868, the way our structure is today, 66% of our shareholding, equity shareholding of Tata Sons, the parent company, is owned by the Tata Public Charitable Trusts. So which means 66% of all dividends flow to the Tata Trust, and through them go back to projects across the country. It could be for the Tata Medical Center, it could be for the Tata Memorial Hospital, it could be for projects in health, projects in bringing water to the country, projects like the Internet Sati, which the Tata Trust do with Google to educate rural women on internet and digital. So it could be all these kind of projects. But eventually, I think the community is center. And that's the way we are as a group, and that's the way I think we will always remain as a group. Does it put pressure on us? Of course it puts pressure on us, but I think some degree of positive pressure is good for us as human beings and individuals. What would we be without pressure on us? Every human being who's alive needs to have a little bit of pressure to perform at his or her best. That's my view.
I'll ask you one last question. I don't want to
Yeah.
take too much more of your time. But if you have some advice for people in BITS right now, what would it be?
I would say, first discover what you're really good at and what you're really passionate about. This may not happen immediately. It took me several years to discover that I am good at branding and marketing or good at writing. But take your time. Take the first few years of your career to discover what you're really good at doing and what you really are happy about doing. Once you have found what you're good at doing and what you're happy about doing, then I would say, if you want to lead a really fulfilling life, be ready to die for it. And be ready to live for it. We live just once.
Yeah.
Give it your all.
Makes
These
sense.
70 or 80 years that we are on the face of this earth, once you discover what you really like doing,
then you start
Don't
doing
stop.
Give it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it all.
Yeah.
That is what will lead to a very fulfilling and happy life in my view. That's an advice. But don't be in a hurry to find out what you're passionate about. It takes time. At the age of 22, 23, 24, I didn't know what I was passionate about. I didn't know what I was really good at. It takes a few years. You have to meander. You have to maybe experiment with a few things to come to that understanding. But once you find it, hold it close to you, hug it, and give it your best.
Thank you
Great.
so much for
Okay.
doing this, sir. It was an honor to have you.
My pleasure
Definitely.
having you interview me,
Yeah.
and thank you very much for
Thank you so
hosting
much,
me
sir.
on this show.
Yes.
Wish you all the very best to you and to your colleagues at BITS Pilani.
Thank you so
you.
much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you so much.